The Legend of Sunset Shimmer, Ocarina of Time. By Ganondorf 8. November 29, 2014. Chapter 11, The Message of the Lake.
Wow! This place looks absolutely breathtaking,
I exclaimed to Spike upon seeing the beauty that was Zora's domain. There was water flowing from the walls down to a massive body of water below, and there was a weird lighting effect that made everything eerie in a good way. That was when I noticed the Zoras themselves, and they looked as though they were in no mood to talk. The fact that their princess was still missing must really be affecting their dispositions, so I would have to tread carefully when it came to talking to them. By seeing what they had to say, it would give me an idea as to what was going on, or I could just talk to King Zora as he is the one who was suffering the most.
So how do you want to go about doing this, Spike? We can either talk to a few of the Zoras down there in the hopes of getting some information, or we can go straight to their king, and see what he has to say. Or you could talk to that one Zora who is coming this way, suggested Spike as he floated slightly in front of me, which caused me to take notice. A Zora who noticed me enter the area from a distance was walking towards me with a grim look on his face. I gulped and hoped that things weren't about to get worse. What are you doing here?
Asked the Zora.
I'm sorry if I entered your domain without giving you a proper warning, but my name is Sunset Shimmer and I am a messenger of the royal family of Hyrule. I have come here on behalf of the princess in order to speak to your king about acquiring a spiritual stone which your people have been guarding for generations.
I replied.
We received word that the royal family was sending someone here, but you have come at a really bad time. Something has come up which requires His Majesty's full attention, so perhaps you can come back at a more convenient time? I don't mean to be rude to you or anything, but we have more important things to do than to deal with someone who looks like she came from the forest or something,
said the Zora.
Actually, that's the reason why I am here. I've heard about the disappearance of the king's daughter, and I was wondering if you needed some help. Granted, I know that I am trying to interfere in something that has nothing to do with me, but I know what it's like to not rely on the support of those who want to help you,
I said.
I'm surprised,
began the Zora.
About what?
I asked.
Normally, messengers like you behave in such an audacious manner. You on the other hand are much different from the rest of them. You wish to help us even though you would be getting involved in matters that don't concern you. Maybe you are the one who can succeed where the rest of us have failed. If you continue along the path, you shall reach King Zora's chambers. I should warn you though that he may not be willing to listen to you,
replied the Zora.
I'll be sure to keep that mind when I speak with him, I said.
With that, the Zora turned around and dove off the side and a splashing sound could be heard from below. It looks like I dodged a bullet there by making the right kind of impression to at least one of the Zoras.
That was too close for comfort, and I seriously thought he was going to have us thrown out of here for wanting to help them with their problem. Looks like we were right about the Zoras not being on friendly terms right now. At least he was willing to listen to what you had to say, Sunset Shimmer, but I'm not sure if the others down there feel the same way. Some of them are looking up here at us with some serious scowls on their faces, which tells me that they really don't want us to be here right now,
said Spike.
Whether they want us to be here or not is beyond their realm of voicing their opinion. That Zora who just spoke to us said that we were anticipated, which means Applejack must have sent word that we were coming here. I'm betting that if we can find this Princess Ruto, it will eventually allow us to get the spiritual stone, and that solves two problems at the exact same time,
I said.
But we don't have any clues, and the Zoras haven't found any either according to what the magic bean seller told us. Finding their princess is going to take some serious effort on our part as we're coming into this completely blind. King Zora might be able to shed a little light on the subject, but with his current state of mind, there's no telling if he'll be willing to share any kind of information with us," said Spike.
"What is King Zora like?" I asked.
"He is viewed by the Zoras as being the epitome of divinity, and that he is to be given the utmost of respect at all times. If the truth can be said here, he's a lot bigger than the rest of them, which makes you wonder if he had to be fattened up or something in order to become so big. Aside from that, he's pretty much what you would expect from a monarch who commands the waters of the kingdom," replied Spike. "If we're going to help find the princess, we'll need to talk to King Zora, so we might as well make our way there," I said. Taking the Zora's advice, I walked along the pathway which soon ended at a lengthy staircase that went upward. A sign nearby read that this was the way to King Zora's throne room, and that one was to give him the utmost respect. I guess Applejack and Fluttershy were right when it comes to how the Zoras view respect as an important idea in their society. As I made my way up the stairs towards the top, I came face to face with King Zora. And he was definitely as big as Spike says that he was. Yikes! How is it that he looks like that, and the other Zoras look the way they do? I'd better not insult him about his appearance as I'm more mature than that, and I've changed for the better. Still, it's going to be stuck in my mind for a while. There was a small pedestal-like platform directly in front of him, so I walked up to it and waited for him to take notice of me. "Oh my dear, sweet, Princess Ruto. Wherever can you be? I am so worried." A visitor? Am I to assume that you are Sunset Shimmer, the messenger of the royal family who has been sent here to retrieve the spiritual stone of water? The one known as Impa sent a message earlier informing me that you were coming here, but I'm afraid that you have come here at a really bad time, for we are in the midst of a crisis that must take precedence over all other issues of state. That's why I've come here, Your Majesty, as I wish to help you with your problem," I said. "I was told that you were coming here strictly to claim the spiritual stone and nothing more, yet here you are saying otherwise, and wanting to assist us in our moment of need."
"You certainly are different from the other messengers who have visited here, and there is something inside of you that makes me want to trust you. I am King Zora 16, ruler of Zora's domain, although for some reason my people have given me the nickname of Hondo Flanks."
Such a name like that would make one think that I was some kind of horse, but I digress. Allow me to tell you the story as to how we Zora have come to this predicament. About a week ago, a man wearing black armor came here to Zora's domain in order to talk to me about wanting the very thing that you came here for. His name was Ganondorf, and while he was downright disrespectful towards me in that he demanded I hand over the stone, his political status as a king prevented him from being punished. "Then you need to be worried about this, Your Majesty, as Ganondorf has been causing trouble all over the kingdom. He went to the Kokiri forest, and cursed the great Deku tree to die. Then he visited Death Mountain, and placed a boulder in front of the entrance to their quarry as a means of starving them to death. I suspect that he may have been responsible for your daughter's disappearance, and if you doubt my claim, then you can contact Darunia of the Gorons, as she can vouch for me as my sworn brother," I said. "Such a bold claim that you have made, and one that I do find difficult to believe, even if you are a sworn brother of the Goron chieftain. Ganondorf has been known to be devious, what with his status as being a king of thieves, but to assume that he means to conquer this kingdom and overthrow the king of Hyrule? After he left the domain without his prize, that was when my daughter disappeared. Perhaps you are speaking the truth, but without proof of his actions, I cannot do nothing,"
said Hondo Flanks.
"I'll admit that I have no proof, but you must believe me, your majesty,"
I protested.
"Maybe you have become stressed out from your journey from the castle to my domain, as the route is a treacherous one.
I suggest that you wind down and relax by playing a game that is viewed as a rite of passage here among the Zora. There is a diving game being run down that passageway, and it may prove to be fun for you if you happen to be a big fan of diving."
"I am sorry, but this meeting has come to an end. For my daughter's safety taxes my mind too much for me to be distracted by anything else. You are hereby dismissed for now until I have solid evidence that Ganondorf is causing the problems you say that he is,"
said Hondo Flanks. He then waved his hand to dismiss me, and resumed his worry over his daughter. I couldn't believe that he would just cast me aside like that. I was willing to help him find his daughter, but now it looks like he doesn't want it all because I lack proof that Ganondorf played a hand in her disappearance. It made me feel so frustrated that I felt like I was about to burst in anger, but then I realized that doing so would only make things worse. Maybe he's right about me being stressed out, so I decided to check out this game that he insisted I should try. There was a sign in front of the small alcove entrance. King Zora, or rather Hondo Flanks, which sounds like an equestrian name, asked me to travel down, and it said that this lead to the high diving spot, and was I brave enough to test my skill? Why do I have a feeling that this is going to be scarier than a roller coaster ride back in the human world? I walked down the passageway, and I came upon another Zora who looked a bit taller than usual.
"I overheard your conversation with His Majesty, and I am sorry that you were dismissed like that. The king usually doesn't behave in such a manner, but ever since the princess disappeared, he has been getting worse to the point where some of us feel that he has lost the will to rule us gracefully,"
said the tall Zora.
"He said that I lacked proof over what I was claiming," I said. "King Zora is one who believes in seeing hard evidence when it comes to the requests of those who visit him, as mere words will not suffice in his presence. I do seem to recall a small bottle having floated down from Zora's fountain, and into the domain for a short while before it ended up floating out into the river. By my reckoning, it's probably reached Lake Hylia by now,"
said the tall Zora.
"You didn't think to inform your king of this, as that could very well be the clue and the proof that he needs to believe me," I said. "Oh, I tried to tell him about it, but he refused to listen and dismissed me just like what he did to you. If you really want to help us find Princess Ruto, you should check out Lake Hylia whenever you have the chance. Now, even though this little game of mine serves as a rite of passage for the Zora, I can allow you to try it for yourself and perhaps see you walk away with a fantastic prize,"
said the tall Zora.
"What do I have to do?"
I asked.
"I'm going to throw these 5 blue rupees into the water far below, and you are to dive from here and collect the submerged gems. If you manage to succeed before 60 seconds are up, you win the prize,"
replied the tall Zora.
"I'm sorry, you want me to do what?"
I asked.
"Dive from here,"
replied the tall Zora.
"You seriously want me to dive from this high spot all the way down to the water that's probably about 2 miles down? Are you sure that this is an ideal rite of passage for your people, as it seems to be rather dangerous to just hurl yourself and hoping you splash down into the right place without landing in a shallow section, or even landing on one of those jagged rocks sticking out from the surface?"
I said.
"I can see your concern, but if you concentrate hard enough, you can easily do this without any problems. Normally, I would charge you 20 rupees to play, but I'm feeling generous right now, so I'll let you try it out for free," said the tall Zora.
He then threw the rupees off of the side and they all splashed into the water below, and that was when he thrusted out his arm to indicate that he wanted me to dive. I stepped over to the edge and looked down just to see how high up I really was, and that's when my face turned white as it was really high. This Zora really wants me to dive from this spot? I guess this kind of height is nothing to them, but to me it's a big deal as I was afraid that I might end up smacking into something other than the water. That was when I remembered something from the human world, even though it wasn't a good memory. When I was that she-demon, I did fly up pretty high, and I showed no fear of heights back then. Maybe it was because I was focused on all that power flowing through me instead of the height. In any case, I quickly erased that image from my mind as that was the old me, and I took a deep breath before diving off. For those brief moments where I was free falling, I kept my eyes closed even though my life was flashing before my eyes, and in an instant I splashed down into the water before coming back up to the surface. I had no time to get my composure as the tall Zora called down from above telling me that the time was ticking away.
I'm not having fun so far with this Spike despite what their king said,
I moaned.
You just have to do this challenge quickly so that we can get it over with,
said Spike. All I did was sigh, and I dove underwater in order to grab the first blue rupee, but holding my breath underwater was a problem as I struggled to get back to the surface after getting it. Without taking a breather due to time constraints, I immediately dove back down again, and picked up the second and third rupees.
This is starting to tire me out,
I moaned.
Only 3 more to go,
said Spike. 3 more? It felt more like an entire dozen to me as opposed to just 3. I swam a little bit as the other rupees were slightly further away, and then I dove down to pick up the next 2 blue rupees. As I came back up to the surface, I could barely see straight as trying to breathe underwater was too much for me to take, but Spike urged me on to get the final rupee, which I managed to do. However, the moment I came back up to the surface, my body was telling me that it was done, and that I was losing consciousness. So I struggled to swim over to the nearest shore, and before I could get onto dry land, I collapsed to the ground and fell asleep. As I slept, I had the same nightmare that I had when I first came into this world, and it ended the same way with Ganondorf staring at me menacingly. At least this time I knew who he was, but there was still much to my nightmare that made no sense to me. My exhaustion kept me asleep all night, and so the next morning came and I woke up as soon as dawn broke out. Surprisingly, I was in the same place I was when I collapsed. You'd think that one of the Zoras could have taken the time to pick me up and get me into a warm bed instead of just leaving me as though I had almost drowned or something.
Are you okay?
Asked the tall Zora who was standing next to me, and helped me get onto my feet by offering me a hand.
I'm alright, although my head is still hazy what with all that diving underwater I had to do. I'm a pretty good swimmer back where I come from, but diving is something I never was able to do properly. I was going to take a diving course eventually, but I just never had the time for it, although I wish that I had. Hey! What is this silver object doing in my pocket? I don't recall putting anything like that there.
I replied. I took it out and discovered that it was a scale made of pure silver which was contained in some kind of strong bubble.
That was my doing. I'm so very sorry about what happened to you, for I wasn't aware that you were not used to diving underwater. If I had known that, I would have made your challenge a much easier one. Even though you succeeded in completing the game within the time limit, I still feel bad about it. So I hope that you can forgive me. The object that you hold in your hand is known as the silver scale. With it, you can dive deeper than you ever could in the past, and it will also help you breathe a little better. It will not prevent you from drowning though, but you don't want to end up doing that.
said the tall Zora.
You're forgiven, as I should have explained the situation more, but now comes the problem with trying to help you and your people out. Your king isn't willing to believe my story until I have provided proof, and the only kind of proof that exists is that bottle you said came through here. If I can get my hands on that bottle, it should be just what I need to get King Zora to understand. It will probably take me about another day to make it all the way to this Lake Hylia, so if I leave now then I should be able to get there just as the sun has gone down,
I said.
Or you could take the shortcut,
said the tall Zora.
What shortcut?
I asked.
See that small square-shaped opening down there at the bottom of this pool of water? It serves as a connection to Lake Hylia, which we Zora have been using in order to reach it without having to traverse Hyrule Field. While we are able to live on dry land, we much prefer the water as our means of moving about. The silver scale you've won will allow you to swim down and enter that opening, and get you to the lake in a matter of seconds. Well, I need to get back to the high diving spot as there will be other Zoras wanting to dive in order to achieve their rite of passage,
replied the tall Zora. As he walked away, I looked at the silver scale once again, and felt this strange surge in my body that made me feel more confident about diving underwater. I wasn't sure how long I could go before needing to come back up for air, but I decided to take the shortcut as time certainly wasn't on my side. Diving underwater, I wasted no time and swam for the shortcut, which caused me to feel like I was being teleported, but a few moments later, and I found myself in a massive body of water that went deeper than what I had just come out from. That was when I started to choke a little, so I needed to make my way to the surface immediately.
Gasp!
I exclaimed as I surfaced and breathed heavily.
I never thought I'd see a non-Zora come out from that shortcut. Why?
I shouted due to being scared yet again. This was really starting to get ridiculous now.
Didn't mean to scare you there, kid, but you certainly gave me a jolt by coming up from a shortcut used by the Zoras. To be honest, it actually makes a nice change of pace considering that the only ones who ever bother to come this way are Zoras. Anyway, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Daring Do, and I work here in Lake Hylia as a scientist where I'm trying to understand the properties of the lake. My name is Sunset Shimmer, and I'm an adventurer on a quest to save Hyrule,
I said as I climbed out of the water and rested on the grassy shore. That was when I took notice of this woman named Daring Do who was dressed in an explorer's outfit, but was also wearing a white lab coat. Her name sounded like it came from Equestria, which made me wonder if she was from there originally.
What kind of research are you doing that involves understanding the water? Lake Hylia's water has rather unusual properties which no one has ever been able to figure out before, and I intend to be the first person to crack this mystery. I've been collecting samples ever since I moved here several months ago, and have been conducting numerous experiments in order to determine whether the water can be used as a means of improving the Hylian lifestyle. So far, my research hasn't turned up any results except for one that involves medicinal factors. Maybe in a few years, I'll be able to figure out the rest of the secrets this lake contains provided that the Zoras don't continue to test my patience the way they do,
replied Daring Do.
What have they been doing?
I asked.
2 Zoras have only been here since the other day, and they've been driving me up the wall with their inane questions.
They keep on asking me about their missing princess and whether there are any clues at the lake that could explain her disappearance. How am I supposed to complete my research when they keep on bugging me every other hour asking the same questions? Ugh! It just drives me crazy.
But enough about that, so tell me more about this adventure you're on. You said that you are trying to save Hyrule, right? It's only been about 10 years since this kingdom first came into existence, and now a threat is poised to disrupt our way of life? I knew the peace around here wasn't going to last that long,
replied Daring Do.
Actually, I came here for the same reason that those two Zoras have, I said. You mean to tell me that you've come all this way just to see if I know anything about their problem?
Asked Daring Do.
Not exactly, as I have an idea as to what may be behind their problem, but I need to have some proof in order for their king to believe me. He trusts me at the very least to want to help finding his daughter, but what I said about Ganondorf has him skeptical about the whole thing,
I replied.
Ganondorf, you say? Yeah, I know all about him, as some of his tribe come down here into the lake from Gerudo Valley in order to secure some fish which they then take with them back to their fortress by going the long way back, which is really the only way,
said Daring Do. She then walked over to the edge of the lake, knelt down, and placed a strange into the water, which began to take a sample and storing it into a small tank. When she took the device out of the water, she stared at the water in the tank for a few moments before emptying it back out, and trying the same thing again. This must have been some of the research that she was conducting here, as she explained earlier, but it looked like she was having problems getting the right kind of sample.
So anyway, the Zoras are up in arms over the actions of the Gerudo, and have been demanding that the King of Hyrule deal with them, but he can't exactly do anything as he has no control over them.
She then acquired another sample and began to study it again, but she ended up emptying that one out as well before she slammed her device into the ground.
Arg! None of the samples are proving any of my theories, and it's really getting frustrating. Apart from the medicine theory, everything else results in nothing. Sigh. I don't mean to freak out on you, but I've been having a bad time lately. What with those Zoras? This may sound like a stupid question, but have you seen a small bottle that may have fallen into the lake?
I asked.
As a matter of fact, I have seen something like that, but it's located a little ways underwater and I haven't the equipment necessary to pick it up,
replied Daring Do.
Then it's a good thing that I'm able to pick it up using what the Zoras gave me by winning a game they play as a rite of passage, and one that I never want to play again as long as I live. This silver scale here can allow me to dive deeper underwater than I could before, and it will help me breathe a little better. That's how I was able to use their shortcut without being an actual Zora. If you can tell me the exact location of the bottle, then I can easily pick it up,
I said.
You have a scale of their kind? That's truly remarkable, and something that I would like to study when you've gotten what you came for. The location of the bottle is just a short distance in front of the entrance to the shortcut,
said Daring Do. She then pointed towards a shiny object that was stuck at the bottom of the shallow end of the lake, and it made me question the depth perception of the Zoras, because how could they have missed something so obvious? Of course, I missed it myself, so I shouldn't criticize them. I got back into the water and swam over to the sunken bottle until I was literally on top it, and then I dove underwater and retrieved it before quickly returning to the surface. It turns out that there was something inside of the bottle, but I couldn't tell what it was until I returned to the shore. Upon getting out of the water, I brushed myself off before allowing Daring Do to take a look at the silver scale because she was really fascinated by it.
Despite those Zoras driving me up the wall with their questions, this scale is truly a remarkable item in and of itself. I've never seen such water-like energy as this before, and the fact that it augments your own natural abilities is just staggering. This may sound rude, but could I have a small sample of the scale by merely scraping off a tiny piece? I think this will really do wonders for my research. I don't mind it at all, although I will need the scale back when you're done, I said. Of course, as that would just be thoughtless of me to take what isn't mine. Now just give me a second to use this peeler and... Done. I have my sample and so here is your scale back as though I never even touched it. So what about that bottle you picked up from the bottom of the lake?
Asked Daring Do.
There seems to be some kind of note inside of it, so let me take it out and see what it says,
I replied. I opened the bottle by removing the cork, and shook the note out of it and into my hand. Once I opened it up, I tried to read what it said, but what I found was a bunch of bizarre characters which made absolutely no sense to me at all.
What kind of message is this supposed to be? All it consists of is a bunch of weird characters that give me a headache just staring at them. It seems to have been written in Zora script,
said Daring Do.
What's that?
I asked.
It's the written language of the Zora that no one outside of their tribe are able to understand, but fortunately I happen to understand their script because I knew that living here at Lake Hylia would involve me having to deal with them whenever they come here using that shortcut of theirs, and they tend to relay messages in that language all the time. Why don't you give me that note and I'll read it for you as you clearly aren't able to,
replied Daring Do. I handed over the note to her and feeling pretty silly about not being able to understand the note, but she was the expert when it came down to Zora script.
This note was written by Princess Ruto. It says help me. I'm trapped inside Lord Jabu Jabu's belly. I'll be waiting for you. P.S. Don't tell my father. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting a note from their princess along lines like that. Who is Lord Jabu Jabu?
I asked.
I'm not sure as there are many aspects of Zora society that remain a mystery, what with them choosing to isolate themselves from the other tribes.
Perhaps you will need to speak to King Zora about this lord of theirs as I'm sure he can tell you more. This also means that you now have the proof that you need to convince him to believe your story, but maybe we should head to my home which is just over there?
While my knowledge of Zora script is strong, I want to do some cross-references just to make sure that I am reading this note correctly. This won't take me very long as I know that you adventurers are often in a hurry,
replied Daring Do. I couldn't believe what she said was written on that note. How in the world did Rarity end up inside of someone? What exactly did Ganondorf do, or if he even did anything at all? As these questions swirled about my head as I followed Daring Do to her home, Ganondorf himself was preparing to depart for Hyrule Castle.
The time has come at last for me to meet with the Hylian King again. Hopefully this meeting will go a lot better than the last one did, Lord Ganondorf, where you had that unfortunate incident with your subordinate. The rest of the tribe have been told that none of them are to accompany you on this journey, and are to remain here in the fortress until you have succeeded. Anyone who defies your command is to be executed immediately, and I am the one who is to carry out the execution. My desire to conquer this world and rule it with an iron fist has come too far for me to be denied when I am so close. I know that you will not disappoint me, Spitfire, as you are my most loyal follower, and would do anything I ask to ensure my favor of you remains strong. Aside from the few guards who have been stationed in the Gerudo Valley to patrol the region, everyone else is accounted for?
Asked Tyrek.
Even your second-in-command Naburu is accounted for, my lord, for she has been seen pacing about the fortress since the crack of dawn. Oops. I guess that I shouldn't refer to her that way because she has lost favor with you, and that I, Spitfire, have assumed the title of your second-in-command. To be honest with you, my lord, I'd rather kill her now and be done with it because she has proven to be a problem. But I suppose that such an action would draw ire from the rest of the tribe as they still view her with the same kind of respect that they give to you,
replied Spitfire.
So she will remain under control for the time being until I have achieved my purpose at Hyrule Castle. So long as she does not leave the fortress in some kind of feeble attempt to follow me in order to warn the royal family of my actions, what she does is of no concern to me. Tell me, Spitfire, did you send a message to the temple and informed my mothers of the impending visitor that they will soon be receiving?
Asked Tyrek.
I sent that message out the other day, Lord Ganondorf, and I received a response from them within a few hours after the fact. Their response was that they were tantalizingly eager to be able to use Nabooru as an experiment to ensure that she remains loyal to you, and never showing any kind of signs of betraying you ever again. It sounds to me that they are looking forward to their guest, although they act like they are being extremely obsessive over it,"
replied Spitfire.
"Yes, they certainly do have an unusual way of handling things, which is why they live all the way out in the Colossus to begin with. Maybe it's the fact that they are centuries old and out of touch with modern society, or perhaps they choose to be eccentric so as to be different from the rest of the tribe. In any case, their state of mind means nothing to me so long as they are able to take care of Nabooru as per my command." "What of Derpy?"
asked Tyrek.
"She is one of the guards out on patrol in the valley,"
replied Spitfire.
"Then she will likely cause no harm, as she is more liable to drop her weapon or trip on absolutely nothing, bless her. If Derpy ends up wandering out of the valley and into Hyrule Field, leave her alone, as she is just being her usual self, which isn't saying all that much. She will eventually find her way back again, or she may keep on going and end up somewhere else altogether,"
said Tyrek.
"Does that not concern you, Lord Ganondorf?"
asked Spitfire.
"That one has never been told anything of importance, so she is as harmless as a newborn child,"
replied Tyrek.
"But Nabooru has been talking with her,"
said Spitfire.
"With her memory lapses being an unfortunate thing, if Nabooru did tell Derpy anything, she is likely to forget most of what she has been told.
And if she were to recall something of extreme importance and tell someone else, it wouldn't matter in the grand scheme. Perhaps I sound like I am being overconfident, Spitfire, but I cannot help but look forward to my meeting with the Hylian King, as it will certainly be the last for both him and the reign his family has had over this world."
"I shall arrive at the castle before the middle of the day, and summon you and the others to attack once the Triforce is in my hands. Now, I depart for the beginning of a new age in Hyrule. The age of Ganondorf,"
said Tyrek. He urged his nightmare horse to begin galloping, and he set off for his destination, which was Hyrule Castle itself. To be continued. Chapter 12, An ill-fated meeting and a fated meeting.